Welcome to Paper Trails, a podcast by Albemarle Paper about restaurants, industry news, and entrepreneurship. Hosted by Nick Kalogeromitros. Each episode features insights from industry leaders, business owners, and experts sharing what it takes to grow and succeed.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Paper Trails podcast. I am your host, Nick Kalogeromitros. We are at Season 5, Episode 3, and I'm here with my good friend, Zach Current, owner of Moo Brew and Painted Rooster. Yeah. So we are at Painted Rooster, one of his newest concepts. We opened probably about...
last June.
Last June,
yeah,
so
June of 25.
9 months ago.
Yeah.
And so we're here at his newest concept in the Plaza Midwood area of Charlotte, North Carolina. We've got Zach on the pod, talk about his background, his story, how he came up, how he started even in the restaurant business, and then obviously today, you know, what you're seeing in the market, the restaurants, things like that. So Zach, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah,
I appreciate
you got it, man. Yeah,
so let's start in the beginning. Where are you from? You know, are you from Charlotte or no?
No, I'm not from Charlotte. I've lived here a lot longer than I've lived anywhere else. You know, prior to my 18th birthday, I was born in Kansas.
Okay.
I lived in a little while in New York, in a little town up through the Hudson Valley. Then I lived in New Mexico as a little kid, in Taos. That was those places have a big influence on, you know, what I remember as being good flavors.
Okay.
Ended up back in northern Missouri, where my parents were from, my mom anyway, and settled in there from like first grade until I graduated high school, and in St. Joseph, Missouri. Once I graduated high school, it was time to make a move while I could, and I chose Charlotte, North Carolina. And
how did that happen? Why Charlotte?
Well, we had vacationed a few times at the North Carolina coast.
Okay.
You know, got in a cottage and with family. Always met nice people, and then it so happened that my mom had moved here, and you know, I kind of just ran into some. It was time to make some decisions when I was going into college in Missouri. I needed a fresh start, and Charlotte made sense. I knew I wanted to live in a city. Everything kind of played out. So I joined. I enrolled at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte.
Okay.
Formerly, that's what it was called. Now it's just Charlotte.
Yeah.
And spent some great years there from '94 to '99.
Okay.
You know, had some great times, and all from the time I was, I guess, 15 years old. I started working in restaurants just as a way to earn a little bit of extra money and get out of the house.
What was the first restaurant you worked at?
The first restaurant was called the Bucket Shop, actually on down in South St. Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a cool concept. Local restaurateur had revived an old place that had been there forever.
Okay.
They had a great neon sign. You can check it out. Just look up the Bucket Shop, St. Joseph, Missouri, and it was a cool spot. You know, it was a place that you can go with your family, or it was a place that, you know, you can go with some people after work, have a few cocktails. You know, it was really a great learning experience.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to buy my first Oxford shirt like that for the.
Nice.
Yeah, that was the first shirt I bought for myself. My mom was going to get me this like JCPenney generic one. I was like, no, I had to go and I had to buy myself a polo, right?
Okay.
And my job there, I was a busboy, and I'm taking out the trash, and I'm not even on the clock in an hour, and I'm taking out the trash, and as I throw the trash, there was water nearby. There's a lot of birds, man. And this bird just dropped a deuce right on my shoulder, first shirt, and I think there was a message in there somewhere, you know.
Oh gosh.
Just get your cheap work shirts and go with that, you know. So, but I met some cool people at that place, and then it, you know, rolled in. I worked a couple spots in high school: Sunset Grill and Speedliner Lounge down on the Missouri River. Worked a Tex-Mex restaurant. That Rio Bravo, I think its name was, and it was like the hit of the town for a while.
Okay.
Then some pizza shops, you know, a Little Caesars, Pizza Hut. I remember Pizza Hut having this great training program for me, you know, like I still remembered it when I got into the pizza business later about, you know, watching these videos about how to top the pizzas, and you know, I was in charge of the salad bar. So I got a lot of really cool restaurant experience before I even left St. Joe.
Is there any of them that stand out to you that you were like, you know what, you know, I'm glad this, or did they all play a certain role? I mean,
well, you know, my career since then, you know, I'm 50 now, and that was when I was, you know, 16 and 17 years old. So I've done a lot of things since then. But I really liked the atmosphere of the restaurants that were actual restaurants. You know, that bucket shop was great. You know, and there was another spot that guy opened that I was at for a while, but that one, Rio Bravo being new, just the excitement of people going out, having fun, you know, like that was it. Along Frederick Boulevard in St. Joe, there's a handful of restaurants that have definitely played into what Painted Rooster is now and what Moo Brew is, you know, a place for all types of people to gather. There's people that, you know, are just coming in for lunch, and then there are people that have been planning to come here. You know, as we sit here today, right now, the beginning of March, there are people that know that they're going to be at a Moo Brew or Painted Rooster, you know, weeks from now. It's on their calendar because we're centrally located, and people know that they can come and, you know, whether they're celebrating, somebody wants to come here for their graduation, you know. In fact, this coming Saturday or Sunday, we're having a surprise party for a guy in the fire department that's getting promoted to captain, you know. So his guys and his wife are having a party here. That's just the kind of place, you know, we'd go to these places, the old D&G, after my parents would have softball games or whatever, and kids would be playing pinball, and, you know, parents would be drinking pitchers of beer and stuff. So it's always been part of my sense of entertainment is going to restaurants.
Do you think that's where you maybe gain your passion or your love for restaurants, or was your mom into cooking? Like, how was there something that you can point back to? Was there a mentor along the way that you kind of saw that were like, you know what, this guy really helped, or that, you know, is there anything like that?
I'd have to say, you know, it really was with like my granddad, my whole family atmosphere, everybody, but my granddad kind of turned us on to like what a good restaurant is. You know, he did well for himself, and he'd take us out to nice places when we were celebrating something. My mom was a great cook, dad's a great cook. You know, I mean, everybody's family has to eat, and there was a woman by the name of Martha Thornton that was like my mom's babysitter back when she was a little girl, that ends up coming and, you know, hanging out with us. And really, I called her the drill sergeant back then because she had me cleaning my room before I could do anything. But she was like another member of our family. And Martha was the best cook of all of them. You know, she was not shy with the black pepper for her meatloaf or mac and cheese or fried chicken. I mean, this woman, she could cook. And
she had some dishes, huh?
Yeah, and I became, she'd call me boyfriend, you know. I miss her every day. She's great. I keep her picture in my car. She's like my guardian angel now.
That's awesome.
But yeah, as far as like the business side of it, you know, I would always be attracted to the owners of these places that I worked. And if you'd asked me what was it that I wanted to do, in the Midwest, there's a lot of town squares. And the town square is kind of the center of town in these smaller towns, right? The courthouse, and then you know. And I thought, man, if I was going to live out there, I'd want to have like a restaurant / bar and have an apartment upstairs and live in that. And, you know, if there was like a hair salon, you know, across the street or something, I'd like to just sit out on my porch in the afternoons and watch people going in there, looking one way, coming out, looking the other, and try to figure out what's going on. Just always been a people watcher. And I definitely am better in a crowd. It seems, you know, I sometimes get along better with strangers than I do with, you know, people that know me too well or I know too well. It's just, it's changed over time, but that's definitely kind of the allure, is always meeting new people. And, you know, on the surface level, for sure, most people are pretty great, you know, so I get to be a part of when people are coming into a restaurant in a good mood, they're celebrating. I don't know what they're doing outside of here. I don't know what they support, what they do behind closed doors, but I know when they're coming to Moo Brew or to Painted Rooster, and they're just out to have a good time. You know, it's
enjoy themselves.
Yeah, you know, we don't talk politics, we don't talk religion, and that's it. You know, we don't have any news on. We keep TVs on. But really, this is a place that you can get outside of whatever it is you have going on and
escape, you know, a little bit. I love that.
Yeah, and have a good time.
Okay, so Missouri, couple of jobs. You're learning the restaurant business. UNC Charlotte. You know, in the mid '90s, late '90s. you graduate, you get right into restaurants, or do you get some other jobs? You know, what does your career look like once you get out of UNC Charlotte?
Yeah, it's there was a lot that happened. You know, in college I got some good experiences working. There was a Fat Tuesdays that opened up at University Place. That was a lot of fun. There was a little place that I found out was like an institution called Beauregard's. It was here in Charlotte. They opened a Beauregard's too. In which is now, then it became Boardwalk Billy's after that. I worked there a little bit.
Okay. Which is a staple, by the way.
Yeah,
Boardwalk Billy's.
Boardwalk Billy's is definitely a staple.
Been there forever.
Yeah, since Beauregard's 2 shut down. Yeah, that's when that happened. I guess that would have been about 96 or something.
Okay.
But then I got a job delivering pizzas for Domino's to save up money to go to Europe, and it was a great job, just riding around. You know, I mean, edit this out if you want, but I loved it because I could just ride around, smoke a little grass, listen to some bootleg music, you know, deliver the pizzas. I wouldn't, there's a little one-hitter on my way back to the store, go in, do some dishes. I mean, it was a perfect college job. Made a ton of money, and then took that money to Europe and spent 45 days in Europe back in '97.
Where'd you go?
We went to a lot of places, man. We had a flex pass and got to use that train pass 15 different days over 45 days. So we'd set it up where we'd ride overnight to some place, take a day trip, and then leave in the afternoon and go someplace and stay 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
But really all over. Flew into London and flew out of Frankfurt and went to 13 countries in between.
Awesome.
Tried food from all over. It was a really mind-opening experience for what life could be and how it was when, you know, the civilizations were a little older than 200 years. So, yeah, that was a really great experience. But then, you know, coming out of college, I was going to be a teacher, actually. That's what I thought I'd do. I had a job as a bike messenger downtown. I mean, just same thing, you know.
Bike messenger? What is that?
It's like a courier, you know, you pick up blueprints. You got to get them down to get them stamped at the you know, just moving stuff that needed to be quick downtown. And that was a great job. But it wasn't really paying the bills. I wanted to be a teacher so I could coach soccer during the year and travel in the summer. But anyway, it all played out the way it was supposed to.
Yep.
Got a job with Wolfman Pizza. And it just so happened at the same time I had told the truth at my job. I already had the job to be a teacher, but I had a misdemeanor marijuana charge from 1998 or 99, and I didn't think it'd be a big deal, but the Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools had just put a freeze on hiring because, you know, some guys were shooting up in the janitor's closet, another teacher got a DUI, you know, just like Charlotte Observer ran an expose. So there was a freeze on hiring right then for anybody that had any kind of record, and so I was confused by that. But it led into me taking a job as an assistant manager with Wolfman Pizza. Okay. And up at the university, and man, I learned a lot because, you know, Wolfman Pizza at the time, do they have any stores left? I don't know, but it was the best pizza in Charlotte. You know, they grew that 8 or 9 stores, and Barry and his wife got this thing going, and all of the recipes were handmade. Like, that was a big step forward for me in learning how things were actually made, these sauces. And we had pasta and pasta sauces, and we had pizza sauces, like California style, you know, and nothing was canned. It was all a recipe. Wow. And the meat was taken from, like, you know, mild Italian sausage to cooked down with like 11 different spices, you know, and ground beef, and nothing was just out of the box. So I learned a lot there. It was a pretty, looking back, it was a really cool experience in learning how to make all of that stuff. I tended to find my way to the front of the house, though. You know, I like working around the people and seeing that the final result of people having fun and having a good time. And I learned a lot about serving. But after I had worked there for a little while, Barry was bought out of the business by a company out of Greensboro called Chelda. And Chelda was running this business, and actually I learned a lot in that next year about the business side of things, about just looking at numbers and reading P&Ls and setting budgets, and it was a pretty great experience from an educational standpoint.
From the new owners?
From the new owners,
Okay.
yeah. Chelda, they had run the Hams restaurants up in the Greensboro area,
Okay.
and had partnered up with some guys that were very well connected in the Bojangles world and the Hardee's world, and big money, and it was all about getting the reports
Systems
and reading
and
them and
structures.
system structure. You got your weekly packet and you're putting it in the mail. Just learned a lot.
Now, are you a GM at this point?
I had worked my way up to GM.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So
I was assistant manager for a while under a guy by the name of Larry Lash, who man, this is a classic restaurant. You just don't know what you're getting into. One day he pulls me aside. He says he wants to talk to me over at Providence. Providence Bistro, kind of a sister to Providence Road Sundries, but down, I think that's what it was. Either way,
Okay.
we go over to the bar and we're having a beer, and he says that he's going to be resigning. He's moving to New Orleans, and that he's going to recommend me for the job at GM. And as part of the story, he is moving to New Orleans because he is actually a woman trapped in a man's body, and he is his real name is Taylor. And that not only is a woman trapped in a man's body, he's also a lesbian. I'm still confused. I don't know how that worked, but that's what he was doing. Okay. So he decides he's going to New Orleans to take this job with Copeland's down there. And so here I am, I'm the general manager. And 24, 25 years old.
I mean, big step now.
Oh, big step.
25 years old, there's new, now have the new owners already bought? Mm-hmm. Okay, so new ownership. Yeah. You're in a new role.
Yeah.
You're a couple of years in
not even
a couple of
years in. So
and now you're getting a real perspective on the financials, the business. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a big learning curve. It sounds like at the pizza shop here.
Big time. Yeah, and we were big enough. There were other stores that we could compare what they were doing. I figured out I kind of had a knack for it.
Okay.
For figuring out the labor side of things and doing the mathematics of when to do what, and that's kind of where my mind started working in a different level of how to run labor, but serve guests. So yeah, it was a really big step for me, and I worked with this guy Tom Kelly, who was my kitchen manager. And man, if it hadn't been for Tom, I would have just totally fell on my face. But he was a meticulous kitchen manager. Yeah, he saved my ass. I didn't really know it so much at the time, but he's a peculiar guy too. I met a lot of really peculiar, brilliant people in those early years, and you do in the restaurant business.
I was gonna say that. I feel like in the restaurants, it's kind of like a little hodgepodge of every background, right? Together, working in harmony and creating
harmony.
And
I could argue.
Sometimes, that's the goal. The goal is for it to be a well-oiled machine. But okay, all right. So
what you find in this business is you have everybody becomes a problem solver. It's not just one person to solve the problem and we just do what they say.
That's a good point.
Everyone is a problem solver. And some people just solve the problem of the kitchen, like Tom Kelly did. He had that figured out.
Yeah.
And it left me to go solve the problem of, a server spilling a tray of drinks on it. It was every day in the restaurant business is a new problem, and anyone that's working here can solve it.
That makes sense. Okay, so how long were you there? New ownership came in. You're learning, you're a GM now.
Yeah.
Tom's in the back, you're in the front, you're gaining experience now in your mid-20s.
Yeah.
How long did you end up staying there?
That was fun. It was a fun couple years. I had had a newborn baby. My son Elijah was with us, and had a bunch of my old college buddies working there. Man, we were having a blast. Set the high score on the Gallagher machine, like when I flipped that 999, I was like, okay, my time here is done, man. I'm out. But took an interview with the Fuel Pizza guys. They were growing, they were growing, and I showed up there in my Wolfman polo and talked to some guys that were down from the Northeast, wanting to grow the Fuel brand, and I ended up thinking this is the right move for me, and I took a position there. They were going to be opening a store at Fuel on the Green, 500 South College Street, and I was hired. I took over the general manager there from day one, and man, that was some pretty wild times. That's where I started as the GM there. Before long, maybe like within a year, I'm helping the other managers with their ordering and their scheduling. Not quite a district manager, but
something of the sort.
Something of the sort, just helping out. And that just grew in as other people came and left the Fuel Pizza organization. It just I kept kind of filling this void and helping the next guy that was coming in, and eventually I was the next guy. And
how big was Fuel at that point?
Well, at the point that I came on there, there was Central Avenue here, the original, then Davidson, and then Fuel Pizza on Trade Street.
Okay.
And then the one on South Boulevard opened. So there were 4 then, and then I became the 5th. Then there was a 6th at the Hearst Tower, and there was a little pause for a while. And then those 6 went on to open another one at Rivergate Shopping Center. There was one at Park Road Shopping Center, and then one in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So there were 9 in the Charlotte market. That wasn't enough though. Our founder, Jeremy Vladas, he's a very ambitious person, and always thought Washington, D.C. was the right place for Fuel Pizza. So we gave it our best go, and in a matter of a couple of years, we got 6 locations open in Washington, D.C., like proper, down Central Business District. And man, that
6 restaurants, a couple of years, that's booking.
It was a wild ride. I mean, that was my second city for a while. So at this time I had had a family, small kids, I'm going back and forth. I was with the Fuel Pizza Group for 13 and a half years.
Okay.
Literally to the day, 13 and a half years, from January 1st of 2002 to June 30th of 2015.
Okay.
And it was time for me to move on.
What are some big takeaways that you got from that? Like,
gosh.
Because I mean, obviously you guys were in heavy growth mode, right? Was it opening new locations because you hadn't done that before? Was it opening new cities? What was the difficulty in that? Is there anything that, if someone's listening right now and they have 1, 2, 3 locations and they have ambitions too, are there some mistakes that you saw that were made that were like, you know what, maybe we should stay a little closer, because it was really hard to reach? Is there anything that stands out to you, like looking back now?
Yeah, when I look back at that time and I'm explaining to people, I have a lot of fondness for what I did there, the relationships that I have and I still have from those days. But I got a paid education, and I have to be thankful for that. I got a paid education in a lot of things of what to do, and then some things of what not to do. And so your question about some lessons is that capital is king. You can grow if you want to grow, but you need to have a trusted financial partner that, by trusted, it's a two-way street, that they can trust you and you can trust them. That we were growing our company, and there were some hiccups along the way, and they had to do with being able to capitalize them. And so it kind of became where we're having one store would be doing well, and we'd have to take from that to, there was a lot going on, and everybody became exhausted from it. It was more than anybody could sustain. And another thing is that just having a good product isn't good enough.
Okay.
No, we had a great product, and that is not enough, because you have to be able to have great people, and you can have great locations, but you've got to, at the end of the day, have a capital backup plan, for when things go. So you can focus on what's important, which is developing people. And if you don't have a development plan, but you can have a plan, but you need the money to spend. And it wasn't just about money there. There was a lot that went on, and it's probably a week's long podcast.
Gotcha.
But
okay.
The other thing that I really benefited out of it is that the restaurant group out of Manhattan that owned Fuel Pizza and operated it made a real investment in me. And there was always a consultant on board. And man, I picked up so many things in that 13 and a half years. There was always somebody that would come down that would work on this problem or that problem or this system, or if there was something that we wanted to introduce, whether it was a portion control system, something as simple as that. They'd bring in somebody that had run 300 pizza places that just said, this is what we'll do, and then we'd meet in the morning and weigh everything out. And it was great because it gave me an opportunity to be creative and to invent something that I had help to implement. Because implementation and execution, there's the reason the CEO gets paid the most, because the execution is hard. You can talk about stuff all day, but getting something done and into a restaurant is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And not everybody's cut out for it. The operators, maybe they can operate a system that's already there, but to develop it and to put a plan in, to put a system in place, is it's so difficult. And so what I've learned a lot from that is that the talk is cheap, and that if somebody's really got a good idea that works with us, we need to find a way to get that implemented. Yeah. And that's the daily battle. There's tons of good ideas that just never happen.
Yep.
And why? Because you have to
execute,
and that takes planning and time and really follow through. I found that it's easier if you don't have something the way that you want it before you open, chances are it's never going to get to what you did. So you might want to hold off your opening and say, no, we're not going to, let's test it every which way. And I've been able to pull back half the menu at times saying, let's just do this great instead of this and that just okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at our slow growth now. Moo Brew's been open 10 years. Coming up, we're having a huge party coming up May 31st to celebrate 10 years. And we tried to grow fast in the beginning. I was just wild and crazy, and this other spot came up, and guess what? Capital didn't have enough to sustain both, and we took an L, but that L was another education. The spot that we had picked out, I took a $250,000 loss personally, and God, I don't care who you are, that's a ton of money, and it was all my money. It was everything I had at the time. But we probably would have been losing money at that location every year. It just wouldn't have worked. So it was just kind of part of the plan, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
I learned a lot there.
So first kind of real, GM, restaurant, so you were at your first place, fuel, 13 and a half years, major education, consultants, DC, expansion, that whole thing. Where did your career, take after fuel?
I resigned in May. I worked it out to the end of June, and then I went to see Fare Thee Well shows. I went to the Grateful Dead shows with Trey Anastasio playing for the 50th anniversary. I went to Chicago for those shows. Okay. Tremendous time, loved it, met up with some cousins and old friends, and just memories I'll never forget. From there, I spent some time, I went out to the West Coast, saw a buddy there, did some traveling there, went out and saw some family in Missouri, went out to Holden Beach, spent a couple weeks, and while I was away, I got an email from a guy, all during the last, I've got books of restaurant concepts that I think would work.
Okay.
I've just watching the way things are and what people eat, there's a couple questions I'm sure we'll get to about what is it that makes something happen and work but I had this burger concept. I'd seen some people in my time at Fuel build some big companies just doing burgers, and I didn't want to shit where I'd been eating, and open a pizza place down the street. My passion was pizza. I thought I'm going to get into the burger business. Okay. And I had purchased a small piece of property down on Central Avenue, a little postage stamp, half a postage stamp, right next to the railroad tracks. It was the Thirsty Beaver parking lot, and I had purchased that, and I was going to develop it into a little burger bar, the Boxcar Burger Bar, built out of shipping containers, and I had it all ready to go, but I needed some time to travel, and then I'd get started on this, and developed out like what the menu would be and this and that, and this guy caught wind that I was going to do a burger place. And he and I had been friends, running the same circles around Charlotte. He was a couple years older than me. I knew him when he was the GM back at the Fat Tuesdays down at City Fair when it was really rocking in the early 90s. But a guy by the name of Ken Thomas heard that I was doing a burger thing. And we used to kind of sit around in the backyard and kind of spitball some concept ideas. He's got some great ideas, and he told me about this festival that he had earlier that spring in 2015, and thought it would make a great restaurant.
Okay.
And was looking for a partner. And so he comes to me and we meet. I got the email, we met, I think maybe down at Alexander Michael's. But someplace we had lunch, and yeah, it must have been, because we love that Guinness down there. But I think we had lunch at Alexander Michael's and just started talking about what he had in mind. And he had this music festival called Moo Brew. And I started listening to him. I'd take it, and I was pretty adamant about, man, I don't really want any partners. I've seen how it works when everybody's got an opinion on stuff, nothing happens. That was part of what happened at Fuel, and but I took the idea back to my friends and my family about Moo Brew. What do you think about it? I took enough college where I got into a marketing class, and they said, in your name, you either need to say what you are or be really good at marketing or advertising, and they brought up like Google. Nobody knew what Google was, but now Google is its own word, or you could be Best Buy. What's Best Buy? That's where you go for electronics, stuff like that. And I had incorporated that in the Boxcar Burger Bar. We're a shipping container place that sells burgers, and we have simple. Yeah. And then I thought, Moo Brew, that's kind of cheesy, but I started asking around my friends and family. They're like, no, I like it. No, that's good, and it's like, it kind of grew on me. And then I was kind of weighing the Ken Thomas and I, what kind of partners would we make? And we really brought different things to the table. Okay. And so he's in live entertainment and event booking and marketing and all the things, that I like, but I'm not. Yeah. And so, yeah, we decided to give it a go. Okay. And we formed a partnership in the fall of 2015. Okay. And started looking for sites. And there was a place where Midwood Guitar is. It used to be an antique store, maybe Clark's. We looked at that and thought about doing maybe a Nashville style, front window drum kit, and back into it, kind of a honky tonk. And we looked at that. And then we looked at a couple places, but settled on the old Joe Hooper's. The Joe Hooper's is where Moo Brew is now, and before that had been 15 different things. And I lived in the neighborhood. I'm just waiting for something to have good food, and nothing ever did. But Joe Hooper's was for sale for an arm and a leg, and a lot of people had looked at it, but they wouldn't touch it for what they wanted for the price. They wanted, this restaurant was doing $8,000 a week. And they wanted $325,000 to buy the business. And, I was the guy that's like, let's do it. I knew the neighborhood. I knew what it needed was some good food, and people would support it. And boy, I was right. I got some opinions of others. It wasn't just me that was right, but we decided to go on that for the build-out cost of a second-generation restaurant for where Ken and I were with what we were going to raise. We had about $300,000 between us, and so we did a little capital raise with friends and family raise, and had a great attorney that I'd met. Made so many good connections when I was at my time with Fuel. Nice. So many good connections in the business world. We were a neighborhood, we were a community staple at Fuel. Learned a lot about giving back. It was some great times. But our attorney that we got came through one of those relationships, and he set us up a structure before we had done anything. We had a great business structure, an operating agreement that ended up saving our lives, our business lives, not more than 2 years later, because it was so structured of like what happens in these instances. And we raised money, and we put $400,000 into the building. We deferred, we took another little loan on top of that after some operating capital. Got that place open. We deferred the purchase price. Tom Wicker he's instrumental in us getting open. Tom Wicker is a legend in the restaurant business in Charlotte. Okay. And he and I had crossed paths in my time with Fuel. And while these other guys were over, kissing each other's asses, he and I are just hanging out, operators, just talking. And we kind of got, something about that relationship stuck because he remembered it years later and I remembered it, and now we're just talking a couple of guys.
Nice.
And so we were able to put up the 100 and I think we put up 125 of the 325 or something like that, and then paid the rest out over 3 years at a reasonable interest rate and everything. And the rent was good, so we just tacked on that payment as part of our rent and paid him every month. And 3 years later, the lease was up, we re-signed, and it was basically the amount that we'd been paying anyway. So, man, we got lucky. My granddad was very successful. I called him lucky once, it pissed him off. He just said, no, I've made my own luck. I've been prepared. When the right opportunities were there, I was prepared to take them, and that luck will only get you so far. And those words stuck with me because I've made a lot of mistakes where I wasn't prepared, and I was just lucky. Then I was unlucky.
Is there anything opening that your first restaurant that you weren't expecting, or that, I didn't know it was difficult to get a liquor license, or I don't know, is there anything that you're like, I don't know how important it was to negotiate rent or a lease, or, it sounds like the proper relationships was big for you for getting this one, because obviously you have Tom, you have lawyer, you have a lot of people that, so maybe networking is the big takeaway, and make sure that,
I'll tell you what the takeaway is for me, is to recognize what you don't know and to be willing to pay top dollar to outsource it.
Dang, that's
In
good.
the very beginning, if you look at all the different things that go into running a business, there are two that I am not qualified in at all that are absolutely paramount to having a sustainable business. And so there were actually three that we identified, but the two that were having an accountant, top-notch CPA, she's still with us, Linda Code, hired her before we even opened the first before we opened, to start tracking our costs. And having an attorney, Mickey Aberman, James McElroy and Deal. He's still with us, or one of his associates still works with us. They were terrific. The other part of, if we know that we have we're going to have a good restaurant, we hired the best branding company, the hot branding company at the time, Plaid Penguin. That was they've split and gone separate ways with the original partners now, and everything's different. They're still a good company, but it's not the same company that we hired over 10 years ago. And so we hired them, and we paid them a lot of money. And I mean, to the point where it would make my stomach sick at the time when we're writing them these checks, but they assured me, said, one day you're gonna look back at this and go, Large Marge paid for all of this, and they were right, because we developed that Large Marge was the last thing we put on the menu. And like when we thought we were done, this guy, Joe, he still owns the company, he said, all right, we got one more thing to do. He said, you're a Midwestern guy, and I am too, they're from Wisconsin, and he said, or Minnesota, we're going to create this Bloody Mary. And, so because we paid the money to the branding, got the branding right, and you see it in your papers, we're still, that goes way back. We've got the legal, and we've got the accounting. I don't have to worry about that now. Now I can worry about the people, the place, and the product.
I love that.
And the 3 Ps are the key to what I tell my managers. As the general manager, assistant manager, you're in charge of those things. All right? That's what's in your control. You make sure your people feel good about their job, the product has got to be worth the money, and the place has to feel good. Those 3 Ps are what you're in charge of.
Yeah.
And that leaves the legal to the legal, and the finances to finances, and let the marketing people do their thing.
Yeah.
They're going to come in here and drive you crazy, the branding and marketing people. Yeah.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So first location, you get it up and going, a lot of lessons learned, right?
Yeah.
You're networking, you put the right people in place, and now you're just off and going, all right? So was there a good start to Moo Brew? Did you guys kill it?
Yes,
because you're
absolutely.
I mean, looking at the neighborhood now, 10 years ago, it didn't look like this.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of changes in Plaza. So you guys were pretty early on.
Yeah.
So any big lessons that first year as an owner?
It didn't surprise me. Everybody was coming to me going, man, can you believe it? I said, yeah, I can believe it. I had a 13-and-a-half-year education with the restaurant group, I was part of opening like 23 restaurants with them. I spent all this time, I got the best guy I could get to be my operator. I wasn't surprised at how busy we were at all. I knew the neighborhood and nothing had worked there, but we made some changes. We got a great architect with Cluck to open the space up, to put those sliding windows in, to embrace the railroad track, to embrace the train. We were on a 45-minute wait to an hour-and-a-half wait on a Tuesday night at a hamburger joint, okay? I'm not waiting an hour and a half for a hamburger, but other people would.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't surprised at how busy we were. A lot of people were by that. And, you know, I think, I can't say a lesson that I learned in that, except that take care of the product, you know, take care of your people and make it a cool place, you know. I've come to this realization that there's really only one question that matters. And the question that matters, whether you're going to work or whether you're buying a used car or whether you're going out to eat, anything that you're doing, is it worth it? If I go out across the street and I give a customer, they have to tell me the truth, and I'm asking them, hey, that place over there, is it worth it? And they're gonna say, yeah, it's worth it. Or they're gonna say, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth their time or their money. But if people say, yeah, it's worth it, that goes back to our kitchen. It's worth coming to work. Their paycheck is what they expected. They're getting paid a fair rate, so it's worth it to go to work.
Yeah.
And so what I learned about, and I'm still learning, is that you have to be worth it. Worth the money and worth the time to come hang out at a place, or worth the wait. If you're on a wait that night, worth the wait for this appetizer that you've heard about or something creative. And, you know, I'm a creative person, and this is a really great business to be in if you are creative in a way. Like I couldn't paint, you know, I couldn't even stand to look at my own painting. But I can see these experiences for people that they might have, or this space that they might have, or what might be. And I don't know how that works, but it's something that I love doing and I'm good at.
Love it.
I love that part.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so that to me is worth it. It's worth it for me to come here and talk to you, because I'm going to learn something today.
Is it worth it? I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great little reflection question for all of us.
Think about it.
Yeah.
The car that you have, or the cameras that we're sitting in front of, are they worth it? It's
I like
pretty
that.
simple.
Okay. So Moo Brew, great start. It's kicking both taking names. When do you guys start looking at Moo number 2?
Oh, it was immediate. So during the time of our Moo Brew, it was gangbusters. And now I had been away from my home life for the better part of 5 years, traveling so much. Now I'm back at home. We got a pool in the backyard, 2 young kids. Melissa and I and Elijah and Bella, you know, we're together. And what happens is you know, I'm a drunk. You know, I became the midnight mayor of Plaza Midwood, and I started, you know, I'd always sort of been a recreational user of drugs, but man, I would go up and down the street and I couldn't even buy myself a drink. Everybody, oh, hey, you know, this guy, the Moo Brew, oh, Zach, you know, and everybody knows me now. And so whether they were buying me drinks or I'm buying them drinks, and my marriage got pretty rocky at the time, and it wasn't working out. And so now here I am with a new restaurant that's looking at a second location. It all happened so fast. Everything's happening so fast. We started looking at the Nan and Byron's on South Boulevard and put together a package like, this would be a great another Moo Brew. And that deal got pretty close to the end, and then it fell apart because no one else was ready. We didn't have enough capital, and I didn't have enough capital. It was all tied up. So, you know, with all my heavy drinking and at that time my occasional heavy drug use, things started to unravel on a personal front. I could look back to that, like 2016 was when we kind of started looking to, that's when things started happening that I wasn't aware of at the time. But, you know, I've been in recovery now for more than 3 years, and
That's awesome.
I can look back at those times and see the value in that stuff happening. So yeah, we were looking right away.
Okay.
So that didn't come through, but then next thing you know, like if you'd asked me where are you going to go with the next Moo Brew, I would have said South Boulevard, or South End. I think Cotswold would be great. Downtown Matthews would be great. And I'd say, oh, and if it was at the corner of 36th and Davidson, maybe Noda. And sure enough, hey, get a phone call. Man, you're not going to believe this. You got to come check this out, you know. Blah. And there was a place called Revolution Pizza. That was available. They'll take a deal. They got to get out of there, this, that, and the other. So, man, I scrambled and I put together enough money to go buy this thing out and take it over. And that was all the money I had. It was not a good deal. That's where we lost a lot of money.
Gotcha.
We were taking money that Moo Brew was making and bringing it over there, and that wasn't right. It wasn't the right thing to do. That's not why we've spent so long putting together this operating agreement. And so, yeah, that's when my addiction really started to show its face, you know, the ugly side of it. So the guys, they came to me and said I needed to get it together. And so in 2018, I decided I needed to take a step away and get off the hard stuff. And it just so happened that at that time, I found out my dad had liver cancer. I was staying with him to stay off the streets, so to speak. Yeah. But it worked out great because I got to spend the last 18 months of his life with him between Holden Beach and here, and taking him to Duke for his treatments and stuff like that. And I kept it clean. And the business ran without me. And one of the things I learned about that is that, wow, this is great, because the business now is bigger than any one person. You know, this was never resting on my shoulders. I put the time in before we opened to develop the systems and put the right guy in place to help me develop the systems to where we know that the Peter Piper burger that's made today is very much like the Peter Piper burger that was made back, 10 years ago.
Sure.
We put all these things in place of the specification charts and the recipe and everything done like that. And so by setting that up and having the systems, how we're going to do service, the business went on without me. And it wasn't quite thriving, but it was surviving at a high level.
Okay.
And there were some things that my partners and we needed to go through, and they were all of my own making. You know, I've found by now that most problems in my life are of my own making. I used to blame other people for it, or this should have gone this way or that way. Well, it didn't, and it was my fault. And so there were some things that I needed to go through. And because we went through those and we made it out the other side, and we're all still, same people are still involved for the most part. Our partner Ian Terhune, he's doing his own thing down in South Carolina, and I understand he's doing very well. But Ken and Ryan and I gone through a lot of changes, but we came back to what was working then was burgers, beer, and good times.
Sure.
You know, we got faced with some challenges. Found out during that time they wanted to have a bigger role in the restaurant. You know, I gambled everything on something that I knew would work.
Yeah.
Not everybody else knew it would work. So do I own the most of the business? Yeah, I do. I also put up, I didn't get it for free.
Yeah, of course.
So they wanted to do something else. And so I started listening and looking for a second location and thought, hey, let's go in equal. Let's do another one. I don't need to be the boss. You guys, we'll all do it.
Sure.
And that's how we found Matthews.
Nice.
And Matthews is just an ideal location for us.
Great spot, downtown.
Freestanding building, downtown. It looked like it had good parking, but it doesn't. It's same thing. I'm starting to wonder if maybe parking is overrated for us, because people can't find a spot there on Friday night, but somehow they still come in. I don't know how that works, but it's a great spot for us. It's like a lot of people that had been to Moo Brew and Plaza Midwood have now moved out that way.
Gotcha.
But they have families and they're living out there, so that store has been doing tremendous.
Whole different vibe down there too, even like you said, families walking around, but has done extremely well down there.
Oh, if you want to have a good time, go down to Matthews, North Carolina on St. Patty's Day weekend. These people, whatever day St. Patty's Day is, go back 5 days, and that's when the festivities begin. And it's just like spring break for people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, man. It's wild.
Love that. And you guys opened Matthews when now? A few years ago?
We just celebrated 2 years.
Okay.
And so now it's 2026, so we opened January 29th of 2024.
Okay.
and we pushed our 2-year birthday party to next Saturday, March 7th.
Nice.
So we could take advantage of what we'd hoped would be good weather, and it looks like it's going to be just terrific, to showcase this back deck that we have with a Jumbotron. You know, we're home of the Tar Heels and, you know, any other sport that's on. So we actually have a Jumbotron. This Jumbotron costs as much as a used Corvette, man. I mean, it's a big expense, and it makes a statement. You know, we've got a back bar back there, and it's not a back bar where people are, you know, taking shots. It's a back bar where people are getting a couple beers, letting their kids run around crazy for a while, and catching up with friends and family.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
It's a great spot.
So Moo Brew is crushing it. A lot of lessons learned. Opening second location. That's doing well. 2 years. That's awesome. How did this concept even come? How did Painted Rooster, you know, because this is not burgers at all.
Yeah, that's right. I said earlier I've got a lot of different concepts and ideas that I think would make good restaurants.
Absolutely.
And we've come to the realization that the poet, songwriter Robert Hunter said it, and Jerry Garcia put music to it in the song "Help on the Way." That without love in the dream, it'll never come true. Okay, and I live by that. Like, you have to love it to be put in the time that we're going to put into this restaurant. You need to love being there. You know, you really need to love the promise of what it might bring. Not necessarily. We don't measure success by money. You know, I don't know if we'd be successful at all if that was the only measure. By some people's standards, they'd say, what are they doing? You know, they're barely, you know, making X% EBITDA or something. Well, if you go into our restaurants and you look around, we're at like a 98% smile rate. You know, people are having fun, and to me, that's the measure of success. So when we open Matthews, I'm there and people are having a good time, and I noticed that, man, we're selling a lot of these chicken tenders, you know, like people are
at Moo Brew.
At Moo Brew going,
Okay.
Wow, this is crazy. I guess this town needs some chicken, right? And I look out across the street and there's people are moving around out there, and I start thinking, man, if I'm going to open something else here in Matthews, you know, I told you I worked at the Bucket Shop.
Yeah.
So I had this idea in my head called Buckets. It was just a concept called Buckets. It didn't have a name yet, but it was like, okay, what Moo Brew is to draft beer, pints, and things like that. Let's do, and Chrissy had said, well, let's do like crap beer, like not craft, like what about crap beer? And there's no place that's selling crap beer now, so chicken and crap beer. And I was like, yeah, you know, we see the trend is coming back to, you know, forgive me, Mick Ultra, but that's crappy beer, and it's the #1 seller. All right, so you got all of these beers that kind of got left and forgotten about, but have just come back, you know, so long necks. So I'm thinking buckets of beer, buckets of chicken, yeah, that could work.
Okay.
And then I thought, well, that sounds kind of like a real working man's bar, you know, but we also measure, if you go to either one of the Moo Brews, there's nights that there are more women in there than there are men. And I'm like, this is great. That's showing that our menu, when we built it, there was a yoga studio just around the corner from us called Yoga One. And we'd see everybody walking back, and I look at people that are going to be customers, and I think, what would they order? What is that guy going to go? What is that person going to want? And I build the menu based on what I think people might want. So we built in, you know, that's how we came up with our blackened salmon burger. That's how we got the Copper River salad. That's how we're like, oh, let's not just have a turkey burger option. Let's have the best turkey burger that you can make.
Yeah.
You know, so I started picking out people. Well, with this other thing, I'm like, we want to have, you know, if it's going to be families, you know, moms and dads that are, you know, they don't eat a burger 7 days a week, you know, that let's have this salad thing, you know, and we had talked about doing it at Moo Brew years before, but we couldn't execute it the way that we wanted to.
Sure.
So let's have an incredible build your own salad, you know.
Okay.
So now it's chicken, beer, and salad, but the buckets didn't work anymore. Like bucket of salad, I mean, I'm like, yeah, and we'll flip it upside down. It'll be like, no, that's not going to work. So how can you give it a farm fresh feel for what it is, like a down home, bluesy joint, and came up with the name of the Little Red Rooster, which again is a song that the Grateful Dead cover, Rolling Stones cover it. It goes way back, you know. It's this this high treble blues song, but it could give you like a farm fresh feel, seeing the Little Red Rooster out there. And I liked the name. I was like, okay, so started developing the Little Red Rooster for a restaurant that doesn't even exist, right? Fast forward to 26. Sometime in 2024, I got an email that late Friday afternoon that Plaza Midwood Staple restaurant was being offered through National Restaurant Properties. And so I called the guys over there. I said, man, what is this? Tell me about this. They're like, oh, you know about that. I'm like, what is it? They're like, Zeta Jane's is back on the market. I go, oh, really? I never knew that it was before. And I went home that Friday and I thought about it and I go, man, you know, that would be a great spot for this other restaurant I wanted to open called the Evermont Inn. I think this neighborhood needs a knife and fork steakhouse that you can afford. You know, cold plate salad, heavy knife and fork, but not somewhere that would fit between Supperland and Dish. You know, those are both great restaurants.
Gotcha. But
go right in between, a place that you'd feel comfortable. Maybe what the first Applebee's ever was. Not Applebee's as it is now, but the Applebee's that, you know, back in the day they had the U-shaped bar, were part of their build outs, you know, and a bar area and then a lower seating area. And I thought the Evermont Inn would be the place. And Evermont is my granddad's middle name. And then I liked the name Inn because it just opens the doors for places to gather, for people to gather. Well, had a deal with Zeta Jane's to purchase it, and after months of everything being negotiated and coming into place, there was a snafu, and a big snafu at the very end of it that had to do with the landlord and the lease, extending the lease. So everything changed. Everything changed right away, and the person that suffered, and it was the owner of Zeta Jane's, who after 17 years and a lifelong of time and a whole career in the restaurant business, was ready to step away and was given the option of basically reopen, you know, or walk away from your lease. And I didn't think that was the right thing to do for them. So she asked if I'd help her. And I said, well, yeah, but the Evermont Inn wasn't going to work because the short-term lease that was left. So we're going to do something different. You know, I'm not a breakfast guy, so we're going to do the chicken spot, you know, like, this is perfect for here. Let's do the chicken spot. And I know about this service model. I know about, you know, because it's just chicken that's worth it, you know. So that's how that happened.
I love that.
It just kind of started taking place. Little Red Rooster, we ran it through the trademark, and it passed the test, but it could have come up where there's a restaurant called Red Rooster in Harlem. Is it Marcus Samuelson? Does that name ring a bell?
Yes,
the
chef?
Yeah, the chef. He has a place called Red Rooster in Harlem, and all it takes for somebody to have a trademark complaint is possible customer confusion. And at this time, Frank Schiavelli had just opened Little Mama's. You know, well, they want you to know it's Mama Ricotta's, but different, right? So I thought, man, that's a gamble, you know, Little Red Rooster, what if we're great, you know? And so the guy, Jeff Schwartz, he said, you know, you will be great, and you should go ahead and just come up with a different name now. And I was bummed out, because I told you, I've been working on this in my head for years. I got notebooks written out and all this stuff. But what happened is after going through all these different name ideas, Rusted Rooster, this, that, and the other, like, I woke up on a Sunday and just go, Painted Rooster. And I said, Chrissy, what do you think about that? You know, Painted Rooster. Yeah, I like it. And so we kind of checked it out, and it's like a symbol of hospitality and everything that we're about in the Iberian Peninsula. You see all these painted roosters, and there's a cool story behind it. I didn't know at the time. So we put that together, and that passed all the trademark tests, and decided to go ahead and do that. And then when I'm up at Klein's Country Antiques with my buddy Lincoln Clark, who has got Clark's Snack Bar down the street, we go up there to Klein's to get some decor. You know, I needed a back bar and some old mirrors and this and that, and see what we could find. I was looking for some of those they have a lot of yard art up there. I'm looking for some of those big Mexican chickens. I thought we'd put those up on the roof. Well, when we were there looking for mirrors and stuff, he's like, yo, check this one out. It's huge. I'm like, what? I looked around, I didn't see it. And he's like, dude, the effing rooster, the effing chicken. And I put my hand out, and then, that's when I touched that out there. I was like, what? Oh my gosh, and then you just felt it. It was like this cold metal on a warm day. Like, what the hell is this? And then we just knew that we're there to get that. My budget for decorating the whole place was gonna be $5,000, right? And I just knew this thing was gonna be $40,000. We worked the deal. We got a good deal on it.
Nice.
For a lot less than that, but still more than my entire budget that I had for the place. And now it's kind of become an icon in the neighborhood.
It is.
I got my buddy. So once we got that delivered, we got the name. We're painted Rooster, and not always what you think that you're gonna be is what you end up becoming.
Okay.
So 6 months, a few months into opening it, we just knew that we were gonna be the wing place, and that's what's going to move. Well, we better have this other stuff too, but tenders outsell wings now. We're a tenders restaurant that has wings, and they're doing great. But that salad idea that we had was a great idea.
Nice.
It was a great idea. People are coming here for salads. You get a table of 6 people. 3 are getting salads, and 3 are getting a chicken sandwich or wings or something like that.
Yeah.
We're partnered with a local grower to use his hydroponic greens and lettuces that are pesticide free, and just really the best you can get, grown indoors under lights in a controlled environment. Hydroponics. So it's growing right now. It'll be cut and it'll be here Thursday. We're getting 3 deliveries a week of literally lettuce that's just been cut a few days ago, never been preserved. It's awesome, man.
That's awesome. I love that.
God, I can run on a tangent, man. I don't remember what you asked me.
No, just about how you started.
Yeah.
So what a unique vibe. I love Cisco. Put some B-roll in here. This place is incredible. Where it started, where it is now, the vibes in here, the signs, the lights, the bar, the big, massive rooster in the front that's painted. So I love the concept. And so as we're wrapping up, any thoughts? Obviously, I think, we've gone through your background, just an incredible story, where you came from, all the lessons learned, the different brands that you've worked for, the education that you've gotten over the years from consultants and just experience. If someone's out there, Zach, that just wants to level up this year and wants to just learn from some of your wisdom and experience and just wants to build on that, and just no matter what profession, say they're in IT or they work at a landscape company or they have a dream of doing something, getting into graphic design. What would you recommend to them from your experience owning several businesses now, several restaurants, being a part of a lot of successful groups? What is your thoughts to them? Your advice? Yeah,
that's a big question and can go a lot of different ways. I've been part of a lot of success. I've been part of a lot of failure. And you read the inspirational quotes. About failure. They're true. You have to go through that stuff. So don't give yourself a hard time. And if you're feeling like somebody's giving you a hard time, that's somebody that's too scared to do it themselves. So don't let fear get in the way, but don't go in unprepared. You don't jump out of an airplane without a parachute. You've got to have the right tools to do the right thing. Right now, and I do this, if I'm going to go out there, it's really important to recognize what it is that you can do and what you can't do and where you need help. We're in a day and age where you can, without saying that we're going to replace our employees with AI, is start to build a relationship with the AI of your choice and start to work out your business plan and start to figure out where the holes are in what it is that you need to do. And I think more than likely you'll come out with the same conversation that you would have with a mentor that would be like, taking a look inside yourself first is where you've got to start. And then taking a look outside yourself after that by recognizing the things that are going to be important that you can't control, that you don't know anything about. Build those relationships. because they're going to come back at the right time, with the right place, the right time, when you know who you can call.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, it's definitely not necessarily what it is that you know how to do. It's that you know who to call to help you get done what has to be done.
Yeah.
All day, really the only tool I know how to use is this, and it's got thousands of contacts in it, and you could come to me. And that's the other thing, networking. Anybody that's out there that wants to do something, make some calls. Call some people, shake some hands, stop in, go to a business that you like that's running well. Find out as much as you can about that. Most business owners are going to want to give you some time. You know, I've reached out in the last couple of years. Frank Schabelli was nice enough to have lunch with me. I think if I called and followed up, we could do it again, as long as I followed up on the things that he gave me suggestions on, and we're almost there. Dennis Thompson, the legend, he was nice enough to take a couple of my phone calls. We've met a few times, and I'm just trying to learn from what it is that they've already done, to learn from their mistakes. So, I don't know, I guess if I had to give anybody that wants to do anything some advice, it would be, you know, you're the one talking to yourself the most, and so be nice to yourself. Encourage yourself.
I love that. That was great wisdom. I love that. I think we are our own worst critic. We are the voice that we hear the most out of anybody else, and so I think having that good self-talk is so important. I love the relationship building piece. I love the networking piece. I mean, you're right, Zach. I think most business owners, you'd be surprised, want to help. Like I mean, if you asked them for help, I think most of them would say, sure.
Well, it's lonely at the top. You know, when you're at the top of your own food chain, then where do you go to talk to somebody? And there's not like this network of business owners that, I mean, that's what I want to do now, is talk to people that I can relate to or learn from. And so if anybody would reach out to me and want to learn, you know, I was talking to a guy about a dry clean, at a laundry facility that he's going to open. He just wanted to kind of know how we did it. Two completely different businesses, but I got something from talking to him, and he got something from talking to me. So
I love that.
Definitely be nice to yourself, and if you don't like where, you know, you got to keep your head where your feet are, you know, and if you don't like where your head is, it's time to move your feet. Go take a walk, come back to it later.
I love that. I love that. Season 5, Episode 3. We've got Zach here with Painted Rooster and Moo Brew. What a phenomenal episode. Can't wait. If you guys, you know, watch this on YouTube, watch it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. We're on all the platforms. If you guys aren't following already or have not visited Moo Brew or Painted Rooster, follow these guys on other social media platforms and stop by and visit. They have tremendous product. I've been a customer at both locations many times over. And so with that, great to see you guys. We'll see you in the next episode.